I like to continue the Dhamma talk on Metta. Metta is such a vast, profound subject, so we have to explore various aspects of Metta. Four Brahma Viharas, 4 sublime states, 4 what we call immeasurable, illimitable, which in Pali is called appamanya. As I mentioned yesterday, it is immeasurable. Now, let us take each of them in turn and try to understand a little more each of them. When we cultivate loving friendliness or metta, we really don't know beings. We know only very few. Ourselves, our closest, dearest ones, and maybe our adversaries, and others are huge multitude of beings whom we don't know. I think 99% of beings are just being like dots in the space without face. There are at least 6 billion human beings, and there may be several trillions of other beings, animals, insects, fish, and beings, visible beings, invisible beings, and deities, gods, devas, and brahmas, and what we call demons, and so forth. And we don't know that. This is the beauty of the practice of loving friendliness. We share this friendly feeling with beings whom we don't know. If we share these thoughts, this loving feeling with the beings whom we know, then there is the limit. But we share these thoughts with beings whom even we don't know. Countless beings all over the universe. It is very much like imagination. We cultivate these thoughts in our mind. And we also wish at the same time all kind of noble, wonderful, peaceful, happy state of mind for all other beings without even knowing them. And this is the state. This is why it is called altruistic, a sublime state. If we show our loving friendliness towards somebody whom we know very well, and because of out of gratitude and so forth and so on, it is not a big deal. It is very simple, ordinary things. Anybody can do that. But to do this practice without knowing beings is not very easy, very difficult. It is very much like, suppose there is a woman who likes children. And this woman, after a lot of wishes and attempts, and she becomes pregnant. When she knows that she is pregnant, since she is so earnestly willing to have a baby, as soon as she knows that she became pregnant, she and her husband both become very glad, very happy. And she would do a lot of things to protect the embryo. Buddha said when you practice loving friendliness, you protect yourself. When you protect yourself, you protect others. Say in this case, the mother, intended mother, who is just pregnant, she wants to protect herself. I don't have to explain these things to women who have been mothers. If they have been taking certain drugs, prior to their pregnancy, they would take drugs without too much paying too much attention. But as soon as they knew that they are pregnant, they read the label. They consult the doctor and ask what is the side effect of this particular medicine. Even if it is very important medicine, she would consult a doctor in order to protect herself. If she is a smoker, if she is going to be a benevolent, good mother, she would do anything to stop her smoking, to protect herself. If she is a habitual drinker, she would do anything to stop drinking, to protect herself. If she spends a lot of hours unnecessarily doing various activities, she would reduce them. She would select the food she eats. She won't eat any junk. She wants to protect herself. She needs a lot of food now, because now she is going to feed two instead of one, herself and what she treasures within herself. She would listen to good talks, good music, and have good conversations to protect herself. While she is protecting herself, she protects the embryo. How can she protect? She protect the embryo? Because, as you know, it is a part of her life, part of her body now. She is 100% responsible for entire life of that little embryo. There is no other source of life source for the embryo. Only the mother's food, mother's thinking, mother's medicine, mother's behavior, mother's blood, everything that mother takes is shared by this embryo. So she knows that. So in order to protect that embryo, she would protect herself. So inversely, while trying to protect the baby, the embryo, she gets protection. So Buddha said similarly, even though we don't know other beings, when we practice the thought of loving, friendly thought, we get protection. We get protection. In order to protect ourselves, we cultivate these thoughts. Protect ourselves from hatred, protect ourselves from polluting our mind, protect ourselves from lack of sleep, protect ourselves from ill health, protect ourselves from being nasty, protect ourselves from other beings, other persons, other individuals' negative attitude towards us. We like to have some people's good attitude towards us. Protect ourselves from having a negative attitude towards them, because we like to be loved by others. So when we cultivate the thought of loving, friendly thought, we protect ourselves. When we try to protect ourselves, we protect others. As I mentioned at the very beginning of our retreat, I said we protect others by observing the precepts. Out of compassion, out of loving, out of respect, out of loving friendship, friendliness, we observe certain principles, not to violate others' privacy, not to violate others' feelings, not to destroy lives, not to hurt others and so forth, by abstaining from slanderous talk, gossips and insulting talks and lying and so forth. We abstain from these things. When we abstain from them, we protect others. All these are action in what you call loving friendliness in action. And that goes far beyond our imagination. There is no limit to that. Although we don't know other beings, our attitude helps us, protects us, as well as others. So, when the embryo slowly, gradually turns, develops, and becomes sort of fetus after 8 weeks, and then mother begins to feel the presence of the fetus, and after about 4 or 5 months, mother feels the baby's turnings, baby's sleeping time and all. When she experiences all these things, her love for the baby increases, and love for the baby, love for the fetus increases. The father's love for the fetus increases. They don't know what sort of baby they are going to deliver. Mother does not know whether this fetus is going to be a male or female, or a healthy one or unhealthy one, or a stupid one, intelligent one, or a useful one, a useless one. You see? Social manners or problematic. Nobody knows. But all she and he know is that there is a fetus growing, and they do everything to protect that, and their love keeps increasing. Just like we cultivate living thoughts towards all living beings without knowing them. Sometimes people say, this is an unconditional love. That is a completely wrong term. It is not unconditional. It is immeasurable. The term immeasurable, boundless is better and meaningful term rather than unconditional. All the Brahma Viharas are not unconditional. Why are they not unconditional? Buddha said, Etang abhisankatang abhisancheteitang. Yankinchi abhisankatang abhisancheteitang sabbantang nirodhamma. Tadanityang sabbantang nirodhamma. That which is, that means these are mentally created. This thought is mentally created. Anything mentally created is conditioned, not unconditioned. And that which is mentally created also is impermanent. That which is mentally created also can be unsatisfactory. Also it is without self. That which has these three characteristics, no matter how altruistic it is not unconditional. They are bound to change. They are created mentally, and therefore they are not. This is the Buddha's own explanation. Therefore, please never say that these four sublime states are unconditional. People always talk about unconditional love. Nobody can create unconditional love. It is always conditioned. Conditioned by at least these three things: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness. I will talk more about it when I show the direct connection between this and mindfulness. So, mother and father both develop this loving, friendly thought towards their fetus. Similarly, we must cultivate this loving, friendly thoughts towards all beings without knowing anything about them, without taking any factor into consideration, any factor in their life. They may be saints, they may be robbers, they may be wicked, they may be mean, they may be hypocrites, they may be saints. Doesn't matter to us. As long as they are breathing, living beings, whether human, animal, insect, whatever. This is the thought. Mind you, this is the thought. And we cultivate this thought in our own mind. Just like the parents cultivate these thoughts in their own mind with regard to the fetus. They have no power of making the fetus anything other than what it is, except taking care of themselves, having these wonderful thoughts towards the fetus. When the baby is born after 9 months or 9.5 months or 10 months or whatever time it takes, maybe 9 months, right? Okay. Whenever the baby is born and baby lying on its back, and all of a sudden baby cries, shows some discomfort. Because a mosquito bite or change of temperature or because of hunger or the bed is not comfortable or whatever the clothes you put on the baby are not comfortable or something. For some tiny little thing, baby cries. When baby cries, oh, your heart melts. Oh, my poor darling baby cries. Let me run. You run to the baby. You don't say anything, you immediately. Some mothers, when they are alone at home, if they are, say, double-story building or something, if the baby in the bedroom, now in this country I have seen, while the mother is cooking, there is a device, some kind of baby monitor, that's the word. Baby monitors. You see, they are so concerned about the baby's welfare. When baby cries in her baby's bedroom, mother can hear from the kitchen. Mother stops everything and rushes to the baby to take care of the baby. See how much concern they have, how much compassion they have. That moment, mother's heart melts and she runs, rushes to the baby. And every day, for many months, many years, this is a tremendous 24-hour job of a mother, benevolent mother. And she always is concerned about, parents both. Mostly mother, because when the babies are very young, they are so close to the mother, because from the stomach, from the womb, baby recognizes the mother. So only mother's voice, mother's touch, mother's hug, mother's kiss, baby recognizes better than anybody else's. So always baby goes to the mother. So when something happens, mother immediately reacts to protect the baby out of compassion. This is an example of compassion. First one is an example or simile of loving friendliness. Similarly, somebody who practices compassion, real true compassion, we'll see suffering beings at homes, in their village, in their city, in their country, traveling in other country, or hearing in the newspapers, or watching the media. They hear or they see and they witness suffering beings. It is overwhelming, enormous amount of suffering going on. And one who practices compassion, seeing this suffering, they feel very desperately compassionate. They are compassionate. Their compassion is so overwhelming. Of course, they know their capacity is limited, and yet compassion is very great. And they don't know these people. In the case of the mother, at least mother knows the baby. But suffering that someone who practices compassion sees is from individuals of all type, all classes, all ethnic groups, all sex, all kind of beings suffering everywhere. So the heart melts. So we must see the difference between loving friendship, friendliness, and compassion. Loving friendliness we cultivate without knowing beings. Only we know that there are beings. Compassion cultivates while knowing the beings. When the suffering arises, when we witness the suffering, then compassion arises in us. For loving friendliness, there doesn't have to be any suffering to be witnessed. But for cultivating compassion, there has to be suffering beings, and suffering should be seen. And then, third is appreciative joy. In this case of mother and baby, or parents and baby, when the baby shows its growth, improvement, and turning, crawling, and then every movement, every moment of growth, when they witness, they rejoice, they appreciate it. When the baby tries to walk, they help the baby to walk. They do all sort of things to appreciate, to promote whatever improvement the baby makes. And when baby grows into a boy or girl and play with other children, when parents watch their own baby, their own child, and seeing that child is doing well with other children, they are very happy. They appreciate it. And coming home from school, bringing good grades, they are very happy. And growing them to be very beautiful teenage boys or girls, parents are very happy. And when they meet their lovers, they go together, stay with them and so forth, parents are very happy to see them in a very healthy situation. And they never become jealous. Sometimes girl can become more beautiful than the mother. I don't think mothers would be jealous of that beautiful daughter. Similarly, son may be very handsome, big boy, even stronger and more handsome looking than the father. I don't think father would become jealous of his own son, or mother would become jealous of her son. Both parents, benevolent parents, are very proud, they talk very highly of their children. This is what we call appreciative joy. They appreciate their children's growth, development. Similarly, when we cultivate appreciative joy, I think I mentioned this earlier, when we see others' success, material, spiritual success, physical success, their skills, their performances and so forth, which sometimes may be competitive with ours, sometimes which we don't have in ourselves, and yet when we cultivate this thought of appreciative joy, we appreciate that. There's a very retold story. I told this story many times. I think this is another good moment to tell that story. You have heard the story of Magga? Magga? Not those muggers who mug you. This, my Magga is Pali, coming from Pali literature. There was a young man called Magga, M-A-G-H-A, Magga. He went with his friends to see a sort of a festival, like a big carnival. And the festival took place in a very unclean, muddy place. So this young man cleaned a small spot for him to stand. And he was watching the festival or carnival, and next moment another bully, big hefty fellow, came and pushed this fellow out of his place and took his seat. He just, cleaned up a small spot. Everybody was standing on mud and dirty places. This fellow was a very neat, decent person. He cleaned that place and stood on it to watch the festival. And this bully came and pushed him from his place and took that place. He did not fight back. He thought, well, let me clean another spot for myself. Let him have it. So he cleaned another spot. And when he was standing there and watching, another bully came and pushed him from his place and took that place. This young man did not fight. He could fight, but he did not want to fight. He thought, well, this place is plenty, large place, lot of dirty places. Let me clean another dirty place for myself. So he went on cleaning. Every place he cleaned, somebody else took it, pushed him out of his place, and he took his place. Then he thought, if you were somebody else, what would you do? He would give up or fight that. But what this fellow did was, this is a wonderful thing. People seem to like clean places. Let me go on cleaning the place for people to stand and watch the game. That was his joy, his pleasure. Instead of, watching the festival, enjoying himself, he thought of cleaning the place for people to enjoy the festival. And then what happened? When he was doing it, he found few other young people. Among young people, there are wonderful-minded people. Few other young people thought, hey, this is wonderful thing. This guy is doing all by himself. Let us go and help him. They also came and helped. So, toward the end of the festival, he formed a club of youths, cleaners club, cleaners society. Their job was to clean dirty places, going from place to place for nothing, no charge, no reward, no pay, nothing. Just went from place to place, cleaning dirty places. And of course, the end of the story is very, very interesting. So these people went from village to village cleaning, building bridges, cleaning dirty wells and gutters and all sort of dirty places they clean. When they went to one village, the village headman was frightened. He thought this village headman was a lazy fellow, did not want to do anything, he was just taking his salary and sitting in his house. When these fellows went and started doing this work, villagers began to like these people. So village headman got afraid. He thought these fellows are going to take my job. So let me go and make some complaint to the king. So he went to the king and complained. His complaint, the things he complained against these people were that they were robbers, thugs. They came and started stealing things from people and destroying the village. So king sent his police, arrested these people, 33 of them altogether, brought to the king. Then these people, he asked them, are you guilty or not? He said, Your Majesty, we are not guilty. How come? Your Majesty, come and see what we have done there. This man is lazy, he doesn't do anything. We came and started cleaning your village. You go and see how many bridges we have built. You ask people whether those bridges were there before? How dirty this village was? That is what we have been doing. He was afraid of losing his job. That is why he made this complaint. So king was so pleased with these people and gave him a village to live. They said, no, Your Majesty, we didn't work for a village to get a village to reward. No reward. Our reward is here. We are very happy. We are happy. We rejoice other people's happiness. Rejoice in other people's happiness. That's enough. That is what we need. So they all went on doing that until they died. So, we don't have to do too much to enjoy other people's happiness. We can make others happy by doing very tiny little things. Saying good morning, good evening, how are you? Smiling when you see them, and so forth. Very simple little things we can do to make others happy and happy ourselves. So anyway, this is appreciative joy. We enjoy appreciating others' enjoyment, others' pleasure, others' joy, others' health, others' happiness, and so forth, instead of becoming jealous. The last of these four is equanimity. In the case of this mother and father, when the boy or girl grew up and they became independent, they have their own home, they have their own job, they have their own bank account, their own car, they are working in the society. So they think, that is very good. They are independent, they don't need our support anymore. That is very good. So they are content. Parents are content. That is equanimity. Now equanimity therefore is not some kind of indifference, negative attitude. Equanimity is a very strong degree of contentment, knowing everything is okay, everything is going on okay. That is one aspect of equanimity. The other aspect of equanimity is when we cannot do anything for certain dire situation. Situation is so bad. We used our compassion, we used our loving friendliness, we use our appreciative joy. Having used all these three sources, we still find there are enormous amount of things to do. No human being within human capacity can do all this. At that time, we become equanimous. What else can we do? So, these are the four states of sublime states, if you want to define them separately. In practice, however, in one day, all these four sublime states we may practice. In one situation, perhaps all of them we practice. We cannot wait to practice each of them separately. Today we practice only this, tomorrow that, and so forth. All the four we can practice at any time. Now, these four have been very highly rated, highly graded four. One time a man visited Venerable Ananda and asked him to list the most important thing in the Buddha's teaching. So Venerable Ananda gave him three most important things. One, attaining jhanas. Two, attaining enlightenment. Three, practicing these four sublime states. You can imagine the place these four sublime states has in the Buddha's teaching, and Buddha approved it. Buddha gave 45 subjects of meditation. In Visuddhimagga you can see 40 subjects, and in one sutra Buddha has given 45 subjects of meditation. I'm sorry, 42 factors of enlightenment. 42 factors of enlightenment. We hear 7 factors of enlightenment, 37 factors of enlightenment, but in one place he gave 42 factors of enlightenment in one sutra. That is Anapanasati Sutta. In that additional 5, out of first 37, I don't want to give lists. When we give lists, some people get tired of listening to lists. But for those who are interested in lists, this is the list. Some people are interested. The list is 4 foundations of mindfulness, 4 kinds of effort, then 4 what do you call four steps of accomplishments, 4 foundations of accomplishments, 12 already, and then 5 spiritual powers and 5 spiritual faculties, 22, and then 7 factors of enlightenment and Noble Eightfold Path, 37. And the other 5 to make 42, 4 of the other 5 are these 4 sublime practices. Each of them Buddha rated at the same strength as other 37 factors of enlightenment. As I mentioned yesterday, the last one, of course, last one is Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. This is how we get 42 factors. As I mentioned yesterday, the foundation, real true foundation of the entire Buddha's teaching is the practice of loving friendliness. Everywhere, every tiny little piece of the Buddha's teaching, you can see this everywhere, without any exception. That is why Buddha's life was so completely saturated with loving friendliness, oozing out. Wherever Buddha goes, you can see the loving friendliness is coming out of his mind and body. That is why everybody loves the Buddha. Everybody loves the Buddha. There was a monk called Vakkali, you have heard of him. Vakkali. As a layman, he just wants to see the Buddha. That's all. He did not want to meditate, he didn't care for Dhamma discussion or Dhamma talks or anything. He just wants to see the Buddha. Because he was just an embodiment of love. Everybody, men, women, boys, girls, children, animals, divine being, non-divine being, demons, yaksas, animals, all loved him, without any exception. This man, as a young man, when he saw the Buddha, immediately he fell in love with the Buddha and he wanted to become his disciple. He wanted to become his disciple not to practice anything, but to follow him wherever he went and stood by his side and admire his beauty, his, pouring out loving, friendliness. Until one day Buddha said to Vakkali, "What are you doing?" He said, "Sir, I can't help. I'm sorry I can't help, but I cannot take my eyes away from you." Then Buddha said, "Vakkali, don't waste your time. This body is subject to decay, death, and growing. This will disappear. You use your mind, very young, healthy, beautiful mind, to do some meditation." So he gave, out of compassion, he gave him advice. So, because of this, Buddha's attitude, all his life, he was a workaholic, so to say, because he slept only 2 hours a day. These days, if somebody slept 2 hours a day, what would that person be eventually? Sick. But Buddha, for 45 years, until he died at the age of 80, this was his life, working out of utter compassion for people whom he never knew. So, therefore, when you practice loving friendliness, people can see that in you. People can feel your loving friendliness. Sometimes, I know it from my own experience, I practice loving friendliness wherever I go, whenever I have time, I practice that. Sometimes when I on buses, people I hear say, "I wonder whether he has the same pleasant mind in him as he looks like." Because I use the loving kindness meditation, loving friendliness meditation. I tell you another story. This also is a very true story. One day I was sitting in Gatwick Airport in England, and there was a bench, white bench. I was sitting, cross-legged, and since there wasn't anything to do, I was not interested in looking at people. I was sitting in cross-legged position, full lotus, and then I began to feel practicing this loving friendliness. I was practicing it. All of a sudden I felt, I was closing my eyes, all of a sudden I felt somebody next to me, sitting next to me. I didn't open my eyes. And next second, I felt very soft, tender, tiny, two little hands going around my neck. So I opened my eyes. I saw maybe 2.5-year-old, blue-eyed, blonde hair, little girl is around my neck. She has put her hands around my neck and hugging me. Then I saw another woman with a big, bag, one in one hand, another bag in another hand, and her little girl's diapers and all this, and her boarding pass and so forth. She's going to the plane. I heard before that a plane going to Malaga was about to leave and ask everybody to board. And this lady was going to the plane, and with this little girl, I saw the mother and the girl, walking. The girl came and got onto my seat and hugged me. I have never seen this girl. She was saying something maybe in Spanish. I didn't understand anything. She was kissing me, hugging me, and beautiful, I think better than a doll, beautiful little girl. And then mother from there called her. She would not go. Then mother said, please bless my little girl and let her go. I said in English to her, please go, your mother has lot of kisses, lot of hugs, lot of toys, lot of sweets. Go, Mr. I don't have any of those things. Go. She would not go. So the mother came and with a very nice, friendly tone, she said, please. She was, in tears. She wanted to catch the plane. And this is a very unusual episode. And everybody sitting at the airport looking at me. They might have thought that this is my child. Oh, I know the child. I don't know what they thought. But they were all looking at me. And I asked this little girl, she wouldn't go. So mother came and very gently, with full of love and compassion, she took her hand out of my neck and asked me to bless this girl. I said, please go. You will be very good girl. You are a very good girl. Go. She would not go. She was crying and crying. Mother snatched her from me, and she was, kicking her legs and trying to get loose from the mother and to come to me. She was crying all the time. This is a wonderful, unforgettable experience in my life. We have never seen, I don't know where this girl came. Probably she might have thought, I am a Santa Claus. Because I am wearing this robe. One day when I was walking in Germany, I think Berlin or Hamburg, I don't remember, a little girl like that, seeing me, I remember telling her mother, Mommy, see, Weihnachtsmann. Weihnachtsmann means Santa Claus, right? Because I was wearing my robe on both, covering both shoulders. Perhaps this was in July, not even December. I mean, this Gatwick Airport incident took place in July or till December. But in little children's minds, there is no so much of time concept. They all remember the Santa Claus. Probably she might have thought, I'm a Santa Claus. Whatever it is, my mind was I was very happy. I think since I was practicing this loving kindness, this little girl felt some, children are extremely sensitive. When you are angry, they feel it.
when you are full of love, compassion, they feel it. I think probably she might have felt something unusually in me at that moment. And I never forget that incident. Sometimes loving kindness, loving friendliness works marvels, wonders, miracles. Sometimes they are not. When I walk on this road every day, I don't like to walk with somebody, because I want to go with my thought of, my friendly thought towards all beings, and whenever I see somebody, I wave. Sometimes dogs, very fierce dogs, come to attack you. Just recently, last week, a dog, big dog, was walking with two children, walking the dog. And from a distance I heard the dog barking. He was coming towards me, ferocious looking big dog, and showing his teeth. He was ready to bite me. I sent all my last ounce of loving kindness towards this dog. It didn't work. But I have loving kindness a stick. That worked. I did not beat him, but I held the stick like this. I carried that every day, like this. When the dog came near, I held it. He was going around, I was holding, so he could not get close to me. So, sometimes, very seldom, it doesn't work. Most of the time, it works. I think all my friends, my colleagues, and my students here, they all know my story of the man living there. I think I told that story many times. Many years ago, since I started walking, whenever I saw somebody, I waved like this. When they were driving, I just waved. This man, when I waved, he frowned at me and spit, and he was very upset. I don't know why. But I never gave up. Whenever I saw him, I did like that. After about 1 year, he stopped frowning and spitting. And then I felt, oh, it's wonderful. It's working. So after another year, he was driving. After another year, he lifted one finger. So I thought, this is wonderful. This loving kindness works quite well. Third year, he lifted 2 fingers. Then after next year, he lifted all the 4 fingers. While driving, he just did like this. So one day, when he was driving this way and going that side, turning that way, since he was turning, I did not wave to him. That day, he took his hand out of the steering wheel and stick it out of the window and waved to me. After about a year, I saw his pickup truck parked in the forest in summer. And he was smoking. I walked up to him and asked him, "Sir, I know where he is, who he is, but just to get him to talk, I asked him, sir, I simply said, it is a very beautiful day, isn't it?"
Yeah.
Where do you live, by the way? In that trail and under the power line. Don't you think it is dangerous to stay under power lines because there's a lot of radiation? No, I have not been affected by that. When I moved there, I even could not lift my fingers. Then I asked him why. What happened? Just after my birthday, I was driving, and in a rain, huge tree fell on my car, and that's all I knew. After 13 months, after that, I woke up in the Johns Hopkins University Hospital. He said every bone on my body was broken into pieces, and they had put me in a plastic bag and taken to the hospital. 13 months later, I recovered. I regained my consciousness. Now, I am back. When he said, after my birthday, I asked him, when is your birthday, by the way? December 8th. I said, it is just one day after my birthday. I said, since then, he is my friend. I think one day he came here when I wasn't here and asked where I was.
No, I was walking on the road there, and he stopped me and he asked me, "Where's that other monk? I haven't seen him in a long time. I want him to come back."
So, little by little, slowly and surely, this works. And therefore, we should be very positive, very optimistic in the practice of loving friendliness. It works with everybody. There are many benefits of this practice. Today I don't have time to say the benefits. Now these are very few incidents that we know from our own life. So please remember them, and I think this may be enough as a talk.
How do you practice?
How do I practice? I simply develop these thoughts all the time. I think people should be happy. They should be peaceful. They should not have problems. They should not have difficulties. I like peace. I like peace. I like to see others in peace. I like to see people peaceful. I like to see people happy. I don't like to see people unhappy, miserable, in pain, in trouble, in fight, in quarrel. I don't like to see that. I wish, may I never see a fight. When I travel, I always think, may I never see fight among people, two people. I always want to see people talking in a very friendly way, laugh, smiling, in a very simple language, I think. Let me see all this when I travel. In 1993, when I was going to Europe, somebody told me, "Bhante, be very careful, there are a lot of punkies, with red hair, up and down on the train station and so forth. They are very, unruly people. They might, hurt you because I look different." Actually, when I saw them, I traveled practically every European country 3.5 months in 1993. I saw them on train station, bus station, sometimes airports. As soon as I see them, I smile. They smile back. If I look, show them some sort of fear, they might take the advantage of it, just like animals. They might try to intimidate me. When we smile at somebody, how can somebody show a sour face? It is not normally possible. They, at least out of politeness, they will smile back. So this is our attitude when we not out of hypocrisy, but honestly, sincerely must come from our heart, that we like to see happy people. We like to see friendly, peaceful, happy people. That we think every day. That is how we have to. Okay, we have some meditation now.